SRT Amplification, and I'm gonna just jump in feet first into the fire, and from the frying pan into the fire, and start this video because this is my first video that may or may not make it to YouTube, but at least I'm gonna try. I had a conversation with Brad, the guitarologist. He gave me some great advice about how I should put my videos together and what I could do to make them, presentable. And I thought, you know what, I'll get there eventually, but right now I'll just do with what I have. And I have all the test equipment and everything I need. I've been working on amplifiers for a long time. I've just not done the video thing and the lighting thing and the audio thing and all that, but that'll come, I guess. Better late than never, I should say. Just a little bit about me. Like I said, I've been working on amplifiers for a while now, but my whole life I've been working with electrical and electronics. I started working as an electrician's helper when I was 17 years old. Did various electrical jobs as a journeyman and an instrumentation person. I was trained in the Army as electrician's technician, electronics technician, and electrician. High voltage electrician, as a matter of fact. So my range of knowledge and my experience is really broad, not just in the electronics, but also in the power world as well. So, but my passion is tube amps, so that's what I'm trying to do. I've been doing it for a few years now. I had real good success in Hawaii at my last duty station. I'm now currently retiring after 20 years active duty and 7 years in the National Guard prior to that. But just hope to make something of what I have, the skills that I have, and the knowledge that I have, and we'll see what comes of it. I've got some really good ideas about some conversions and some homemade amplifiers and some designs, and that's my ultimate goal for SRT Amplification, is to actually have my own line of amplifiers. I don't like to use the word boutique because I think that's kind of cheeky, but just a really good quality hand-wired amplifier that I've got some ideas that probably have never been done before, or some of them that have been done before but had very limited success that I think I can improve upon. So those are all things to come. So hopefully that's gonna come later. But in this video, I just want to show you a couple of projects I'm working on. A few weeks ago, I came across this amplifier. It's a 1951 Gibson BR6, and I mean, I think I got a good deal on it as far as what I paid for it. And the guy actually demoed it for me before I purchased it, and I felt confident that whatever was wrong with it I could fix. But I mean, it's really in good shape. It's I haven't taken it out yet because I wanted to save that for the video. I haven't taken the chassis out or anything, but from what I've seen, I know somebody's been into it because they've already converted it to a 3-prong power cord. And other than that, I'm going to get it up here on the bench and let you look at it. Alright, so this is the Gibson BR-6. They made several varieties of these BRs in the 50s. I think they made a 6, a 9, and maybe a 7. There are various types of them. But here you got, obviously, a replacement handle here. But you do have the original riveted handle holders here on there, which usually people who replace these handles, they kind of mess this part up and put some kind of non-original screw type fittings on here. But this one's got the original riveted handle secure. Okay, and then the original grill cloth. You got a few stains on it. I've seen a few of these online, not so much the BR6s, but some of the BR9s, and a lot of them, this center G right here in the middle was missing. So it's got that. Also, if I can zoom in here a little bit, maybe you can see this a little bit better. But you can also see down here in the very bottom, you have the Gibson logo that's silk screened on here. That's in excellent condition. It's not rubbed off or anything like you see a lot of them, you know, halfway rubbed off or whatever. It's still in really good condition. It does have some condition issues on the corners and on the edges where the Tolex is actually coming off of the corners here. But I think I can fix that, and I think I can do something with that where it's not noticeable, or I may be able to get some stuff to actually replace this where it looks vintage, but at the same time, you know, looks good. Grill here, the baffle still in place. Let's turn around the back side here. Okay, so let's look at the back of this thing. And as you can see, we have 3 inputs right here. Now, I'm gonna have to look at this on the inside to see exactly what that's doing, because the schematic only shows 2 inputs for the BR6. But I looked online and I did see some of them that had 3 inputs on them. So maybe at some point they added another input and they just didn't reflect it in the schematic, which we're going to look at the schematics as well here in a minute. But just to go over what we see here, all it has is a volume control. This amplifier actually is very, very similar to the Fender Deluxes of the time, if you know anything about the Fender Deluxes. It's a push-pull. You have your 2 power tubes, which are 6V6s. You have your this should be a 6S7, I believe, 6SJ7, and then this is your phase inverter. This should be a 6SN7. Yeah, so 6SN7 for the phase inverter. This is a paraphase phase inverter. All right, and then using the 2 triodes. This right here is really strange. The way they run their preamp tube, though, is they use 2 triodes in here in parallel with each other, which you're going to see on the schematic in a minute. It's different than the Deluxe that used them in series with each other. Another thing that you're going to notice that's different about this, if you're a Deluxe, if you're familiar with the Deluxe, is notice there's no. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. Maybe not, because I don't have it on autofocus. But there's not any capacitor coupling to the first stage, and it's a higher impedance than what you normally see, a little bit higher. It's 100K, whereas, you know, the Deluxes and Champs and everything of the time was 75K going into it. The other thing is it has no tone control. So in the early versions of the Deluxe, they put a crude tone control between the 2 plates of the output tubes, just a resistance value and a potentiometer and a capacitor value. There's kind of crude. Later in the later versions of the Deluxe, they actually put that tone circuit where you normally see a tone circuit between the two power preamp stages. So I'm going to experiment a little bit with this. Of course, we've got the 5x3 rectifier. I don't know if I mentioned that right here. Electrodynamic speaker with the actual field coil. I'll put transformers mounted up here on the speaker itself. You can see that, and then the power transformer is mounted back here on the with the bulkhead there sticking up past, you know, through the chassis. Most of it's on the inside. But we're going to take this apart. We're going to look at it, see what we need to do to it, see if we can improve upon it. He demoed it for me, like I said, and it sounded good. Had a little hum, which I'm sure we can fix that fairly easy. But I would like to get some kind of tone circuit of some sort in here. If I have to use one of these, you know, input holes to do it, so it's reversible, obviously. If I have to do that, maybe the center one, I don't know. Maybe be able to put a little tone control knob there or something, and I think it's going to make a great little amp. It's all really good wood. It's ply. There's no particle board in it, which, I mean, you expect this kind of would in an amp of this age. You don't expect particle board. So it's a really thick baffle. And I think the speaker may have been reconed at one point, but we'll pull that off of there and we'll see what we got going on there. So yeah, that's it for the Gibson BR6, and I think it's going to make a really great fixer-upper, and we'll see what we can do with it. So for the next part, I want to put a couple things up here on the bench. I just got a couple things in the mail today, and we're going to actually open them right now. I'm anxious to see how they came. Let me get the first one. I'm kind of like Brad. I'm always anxious when I open boxes because you never know how people pack things, and I've seen some very good examples of how not to pack things, and then I've seen some things that made me think, wow, that's a really good way to pack things. Next time I run across having to pack something like that, I'll use that as an example, because it's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that before. So it goes both ways. So the anxiety's there, but at the same time, you hope for the best, right? And this guy looks like he packed this thing very well. So let me tip this up so you can see what I see so far. So far, I see lots of solid foam blocks of styrofoam, which is excellent. I also see a loose tube cap there, tube shield there. So hey, that's good. You never have too many tube shields, right? It looks like he boxed up the tubes. I'm trying to figure out which one this one is. Okay, I think this one is the Hammond amplifier. I'm almost for certain now that I see kind of what's in here without seeing anything. I'm thinking it's a Hammond preamp, which I've got a project for that. Yep, he's got all of the tubes wrapped up really good in this foam. This one fell up because I pulled it up by the, well, we got a looks like a 12 BH7 preamp tube there, and I'm just gonna set these off to the side. This thing is chock full of tubes. If you ever know anything about a Hammond, I mean, so you know, a Hammond has reverb, vibrato, drum, bass drivers, all these different tube drivers for the effects that the Hammond organ has. So a lot of these things, you know, if you're going to convert one of these to a guitar amp, you're probably not going to use, but you just got a plethora of spots to put things and experiment with things, tube sockets to use, and space on the chassis galore. When I pull it out, you'll see exactly what I mean. And that looks like a B5H3, 12 B5H3, or an 8. I have no idea what that is. I'll have to look at that, but it's made in Britain, so it's an older tube. Oh, and these tubes are just going to keep coming, I'm telling you. There's so many of them in one of these amplifiers, it's ridiculous. Looks like a Hammond tube, Hammond branded, of course. I'll have to find out exactly who made that. There's different manufacturers over the years. This one was made in Germany. It's an EL84 power tube. Okay, good deal. But it's an old one. That's awesome. So to tell you the truth, okay, I bought this thing off of eBay, and I think there's another EL84. I think for what I paid for it, I got my money back just in the power transformer. So when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Hopefully it didn't rob me of the power transformer, because that's what I bought it for. And this should be the rectifier, please. Let's see what it is. Oh, no. Yes, it's the 5U4 rectifier. Actually, it's actually a Hammond. And it kind of threw me for a loop there for a minute, because it's actually got the gutter on the side here, which I've seen that in RCA tubes. I believe this is probably an RCA with that red writing, and where that gutter is on the side like this. I think this is an RCA tube branded for Hammond, but it's a 5U4 rectifier made in the USA. Yeah, I'm almost 100% that it's a RCA tube. I'll have to look up that code because I don't remember it right off the bat, but I think 6609. I think that's an RCA tube. Anyway, okay, looks like it. All right, well, there's that. Now for the fun, the actual chassis here. I'm glad you did a good job, whoever that is. I'll have to contact the seller on this. Like I said, it was an eBay. And if you're watching out there eventually when I get this posted, you never know who's watching you. You did a good job on packing this thing up. It's so far so good. The tube survived anyway. Oh, we got padding for days. So after all of that blocks of styrofoam, it's just rolls and rolls and rolls of this foam. Very well wrapped. Okay, get this box out of the way. Now's where the fun begins. Oh, this thing is immaculate. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Okay. Okay. We got a lot of filter caps. Have a choke. For the reverb, I believe. I'll have to look at the schematic on this. It's been a while since I've seen one of these. I've had a couple come into my shop for repairs, not the actual AL43, but the AL29 and the 28, the larger ones. But look at the real estate. This is a Hammond AL43-1, by the way. Look at the real estate on there. I mean, you have all kinds of real estate, and that big, big transformer. It's just great, and the output transformer too. Very, very, very nice. I mean, we can do so many things with this. And look at this. Look at that. It's all point-to-point wiring. Man, I mean, you cannot ask for something better than this for what I paid for it. So clean. It's got the original caps, the Mallory caps in it. And looks like everything in this is original. I don't see a single thing in there that has been changed. So awesome. I'll have to put all those caps, especially these filter caps here on the ESR, and check them out. But that's one project. I'm not going to get into detail on it. I'm going to get this out of the way because we got one more thing to look at. And I don't want to go overboard with my very first video, right? So, I'll set this off to the side. Alright, so the next thing is I should have known just by the size of this box which one was which, but I'd kind of forgotten what I got, so. Okay. This one's going to take quite a bit of cutting into, looks like. Alright, now, this one should be what I believe. I got this off of eBay too, by the way. Very, 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 very good price on this. I've got big plans for this little thing. This thing should be an old, gutted out tube radio player. But all I wanted was the amplifier out of it, so I didn't care that the record player part was gutted out. This guy looks like he mounted this thing very well too, or packed this thing very well. He's also got a bunch of styrofoam. See, I think one of the best things about unpacking things that you buy is that you have all this packing material for the next time, right? Looks like there's a back panel here that he's taken off. So maybe he went in there and... Okay, so what he did was... Oh, this thing's bubble wrapped to the teeth. Lots of bubble wrap. That's good. Very good. I'm going to sit this down on the floor, and then I'm... Okay, so we got this thing up on the bench now. And as you can see, like I said, this looks like an old vintage record player, right? It's made by Westinghouse. It's got a volume and a tone. And at one time, I'm thinking this is late 50s, early 60s. Late 50s, I think. I would say. With the writing the way it is and the color, let's say 50s. But look at that. We'll actually see if we can tell what the age is on this thing. But he's got all this bubble wrapped inside. Paper. So if nothing else, I got a good deal on bubble wrap. I don't know. Alright, so we got, well, I'll have to turn this up because it's actually stuck to the chassis, to the base here. But we do have the original 2-prong plug. Yeah, it looks like everything on here is original. Okay, so what we have here, see the tube chart and the schematic. Now this is great because I was looking for this online and I could not find any schematics or anything for it, so I was really worried about that. Let me take the camera off so you can get a better look at this. Take the camera off the tripod here. I don't know how I'm gonna prop this up. We'll see what this looks like. So all right, well, there you go. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. And I might want to put this on manual focus or autofocus. I don't know. I'll get a good still photograph of this and I'll post it. And then I can put it in the video. How's that? Okay, but you can see here we have just a little amplifier. And from what I'm seeing here, this thing is there's no power transformer, so it's taken right from the 120 power circuit, and it's rectifying it through looks like a 35W4 rectifier. But the way it's dropping that 35 to that 35 volts is through the filament wires in series along with the resistor. So that's how it's getting that, and then it's got a 1286 and a, looks like a 5QC5 tetrode. So for the output power tube. So that's how this is working, and little bitty package, right? Because you know, no power transformer, anything like that. Can cap. It looks to all be original, including the tubes. The tubes are actually Westinghouse tubes. So here's the deal with this thing. Get this put back up. So here's the deal with this thing. What I want to do with this, because it's such a small package for a tube amp, I've got, My son, you know, he plays guitar. He's a big Line 6 fan. I'm trying to get him into tube amps, and he really likes my Silvertone, my 1964 Silvertone. But I think what I'm going to do with this is, he's got an old, one of the first Line 6 amps that he ever bought. He's got a really big, like 120 watt twin now, but one of the first ones he had is like this little 15 watt or something like that. And it's got a, you know, it's chassis on it. It's probably this size. So what I'm wanting to do, you know, you see a lot of these restorations and stuff or conversions where they'll take something like this, you know, and they'll just make a guitar amp out of it, you know. Put an input jack here, an output jack there, mess with the tone controls, and just make an amplifier out of this actual container itself. What I want to do with this is I want to put this in that Line 6 and use that Line 6 control plate for volume, tone, and whatever else I want to do with it, and have this down there in the bottom of the cabinet. So from the outside looking in, you think it's a Line 6 amp until you turn it on, and bam, you got yourself a single-ended, you know, Class A amplifier from the 50s. And what a great thing that would be, right? So that's the plan for this. I'm going to stick that in there and see what I can do with it. So that's another project. So if you're interested in something like that, which is kind of new and exciting, stick around for that, because that's going to be coming down the pipe. But that's all I have for today. So I know this one went a little bit. By the time I get through with the edit on this, then it's probably going to be around 30 minutes. So thanks for sticking with me for my first video, and hit subscribe and hit that little bell down there about subscribing. You'll get notifications, and like this video, and I'll be bringing you more. Thank you.